Okay, good morning and welcome to today's event. My name is Lorenzo Pupillo and I'm head of the Cybersecurity Accepts initiative. I will be leading this event and chair this panel. Today's event is on cybersecurity in the EU institution, strengthening the EU's critical digital infrastructure. In particular, this event is focused on the regulation laying down measures for a high level of cybersecurity at the Union entities that entered into force on the 7th of January 2024. According to this legislation, Union entities are defined in this regulation as Union institutions, bodies, offices and agencies set up by or pursuant to the Treaty on the European Union, the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, or the treaty establishing the European Atomic Energy Community. Now, let's start making very interactive this meeting today. Except people that are directly involved in the EU, in the union entities regulation, do you know how many union entities do you have in Europe? Do you have an idea? Like 10, 20, 100, 200? Who gets? Nobody answered. 60? 60? No. We have 90 union entities, like the European Commission, the European Parliament, Council of the European Union, 6 Commission executive agencies, 37 EU decentralized agency, the external affairs, joint undertaking, such as the Innovative Medicine Initiative Joint, the EU Advisory Mission in Ukraine, and so on. According to the report of the European Court of Audit of 2022, the level of cybersecurity maturity varies substantially from one entity to another. This is a problem since due to sensitive information that they process, union entities are attractive targets for potential attackers. One example was the cyber attack on the European Medicine Agency during the pandemic. If we look at the CERT-EU Threat Report 2023, notice that threat actors have targeted 104 software products in 241 distinct malicious activity of interest. This targeting took different forms, including exploitation of internet-facing vulnerable software products, supply chain attacks, leveraging Trojan software products, fake version of software products, abuse of public repository, use of programming languages. Spear phishing remained the predominant initial access method for state-sponsored and cybercrime groups seeking to infiltrate target network. It's also interesting to look at what the sector are that have been mostly attacked. There are 13 sectors. The most were in descending order. Diplomacy was the first one. Defense, transport, finance, health, energy, technology, justice, telecommunication, research, education, fundamental rights, and space. Despite the institutional independence, union entities are strongly interconnected. They exchange information on a daily basis and share a number of common systems and networks. Weakness in individual union entities could expose others to security threats, as many cyber attacks take more than one step to reach their objective or final target. A successful attack against a weaker entity may be used as a stepping stone to target others. Union entities are also interconnected with public and private organizations in member states, and by not being sufficiently cyber prepared, may likewise expose them to cyber threat. Before the regulation that we discuss today, this is very important to notice, there was no legal framework for information security and cybersecurity in the union entities. Indeed, they are not subject to the broadest EU legislation on cybersecurity, known to the NIS2 directive. Therefore, this regulation is particularly important since lays down measures for the establishment of an internal cybersecurity risk management, governance and control framework for each union entity, set up a new interinstitutional cybersecurity board to monitor and support its implementation by union entities, provide an extended mandate of the Computer Emergency Response Team for the union entities. To discuss the status of cybersecurity of the European Union and how this new regulation is going to impact on them, today we have an important, great panel. But before introducing the speakers, I would like to acknowledge and thank the support of the sponsor of this event, Trellix and ISACA. Furthermore, since it is an hybrid event, I would like to make clear to our remote people connected, they have the opportunity to ask questions, but they should use the chat, okay? So we will collect also the question from the remote speaker. Now, let's invite the podium to the point today's speaker. We'll start in the order in which they will speak. There has been a change in the program. So from the youth cert, we have now Alexandros Goniadis. Please take a seat. He's a senior operational cooperation officer at CERT-EU. Liliana Musetan, head of unit, Cybersecurity General Secretariat of the European Council. Mo Cashman, EMEA CTO at Trellix. Sania Kekis, Cyber Pathway for Women Manager at ISACA. And Christian D'Acunha, head of the Cyber Coordination Task Force at DG Connect. Now, I would like briefly introduce each speaker. So, Alexandro Goniadis is a Senior Operational Cooperation Officer at CERT-EU. Prior to CERT-EU, he served as the European Commission DG Connect, working on cybersecurity, digital privacy policy and legislation, and the European Consumer Organization before that. He's a qualified lawyer in the EU with advanced studies on ICT law, software, patent, and corporate governance. Liliana Musetan is leading the cybersecurity unit at the General Secretariat of the European Council. She joined the Council almost 3 years ago, and since then has become a fundamental driver of a risk-based approach to cybersecurity to support strategic decision-making. Liliana has over 24 years of experience in the European institution. It has been constantly admired for her leadership role in keeping up with the ever-changing threat landscape. Her role involves not only protecting the crown jewels of the Council while enhancing security posture, but also creating a vibrant cyber awareness culture. Prior to joining the EU as a diplomat in the European External Action Service, she was the head of IT at the General Secretariat of the Romanian government. Liliana is a leading example for women in cybersecurity as ambassador of Women for Cyber Romanian chapter. Mo Cashman, CTO of EMEA Trellix, is an enterprise architect and is also appointed the principal engineer. He aspired next generation security professional advice Trellix, largest global customer, on how to make security an enabler for their business. More passion is to change the way we think about, measure and operate security system, with a passion of over 20 years of experience. Sania Kekis has been engaged in an external Europe cybercritical infrastructure project regarding capacity improvement and workforce development, as well as increasing the number of women in the cybersecurity workspace. She's a member of the ISACA Digital Trust Framework Task Force and the ISACA EU Advocacy Task Force. She was a member of the ISACA She Leads Tech Chapter Engagement Working Group. Has gained experience previous to ISACA with Deloitte, several largest bank, and Serbia's largest mobile operator. Christian D'Acunha is head of the Cyber Coordination Task Force in DG Connect of the European Commission, supporting the coordination of situational awareness and response to cyber crisis. In previous role, he oversaw a study into digital advertising, led the drafting of the Data Act proposal, and the rollout of interoperable contact tracing app during the COVID pandemic. Prior to this, he was head of the private office of the European Data Protection Supervisor. Before arriving in Brussels in 2008, his role included advisor to the Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales, and private secretary of the chairman of the UK Labour Party. Well, with all this information, I think we can assure that we have an outstanding panel. So let's start with, I will sit down over there. Okay. No, it's okay.
It's fit at work.
Yes. Okay. So let's start with Alexandros. So what is the cybersecurity status of the union entities and how is legislation going to impact them? Please.
Well, first things first, I usually go by Alex, so please just call me Alex, not Alexandros. Unless you want to call me Alexandros, it's fine. I answer to both. Secondly, I would like to extend the apologies of Sad. He had a last-minute change in his agenda, so he unfortunately couldn't make it. I'm as surprised as you are to be here. But that's out of the way. So, CertU, I suppose that everybody in the room knows what CertU is, but just in case there is any misunderstanding, we are not the CERT of the whole of the European Union, right? We are the CERT for the EU institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies, right? The EU governance model. As Lorenzo said, the European Commission, the Council, the Parliament, all the agencies, not the executive agencies directly, because those would fall under the European Commission, but overall, we are there for almost all of the union entities. And there are 90 of those, and they come in all shapes and sizes, like big ones, like the European Commission with thousands of employees, very mature cybersecurity teams, all the way to small ones with a couple dozen people, maybe one IT person doing everything, not exactly knowledgeable on cybersecurity per se, but trying to do the best they can. So we've been around for a bit more than 10 years, and over the past period of our existence, we function as a boutique cybersecurity service provider, if you will. Like very targeted services for bigger entities, but maybe a little bit more or everything for smaller ones, depending on their capabilities. And we've seen pretty much everything, like 90 different entities, in 90 different ICT environments, 90 different levels of maturity, pretty much what the study of the Court of Auditors showed. So you realize that it makes our work and the union entities' work quite difficult to be able to merge all this together. And one of the goals of regulation is to tackle exactly that, to tackle this heterogeneity between union entities. And the way to do that is, well, to the very least, make sure that everybody has a certain level of cybersecurity in-house through measures, through the what Lorenzo described, like everybody needs to assess the risk profile that they have as an organization. It's a risk-based approach. Then you'd have specific measures in place. Then you'd have a governance model for cybersecurity. So for the first time, cybersecurity is recognized as something that is included in the governance of every union entity, and its importance is recognized by higher management. So it's not something hidden in the shadows that the IT people would only talk about and nobody else knows what cybersecurity is. It becomes evident that cybersecurity is important in order to safeguard the mission of a union entity, because that's what it is, right? We're there to help them, help union entities perform, fulfill their mission, and help them have an efficient EU administration in place. That also is translated into governance models on cybersecurity and cybersecurity plans. On top of that, reporting of significant incidents becomes mandatory. That was not the case in the past. It was more on the basis of an agreement or on a voluntary, semi-voluntary basis in a way. So that becomes a mandatory thing from now on, which also helps us have the ability to help out union entities, but also have enough information that we can then use in order to help other union entities. Because something that happens in one of the union entities may as well affect somebody else, or we are in a better position to understand what it is about in order to use that information, disseminate it quickly within the network of union entities, provide actionable information to them so that they can look into the systems, see whether they have been affected, or create a common level of situational awareness of what kind of threats are out there and what should we be preparing about. The two main roles of CertU have been there for quite a while. We've been an information exchange hub for the union entities and an incident response and coordination center. This remains in the regulation, albeit a bit more elevated, but this is something that we did in the past as well. We will collect all the information, intelligence, triaging, analyzing it, disseminating that information to union entities with actionable stuff that they can use in order to look for threats in their networks, but also with the situational awareness part that I mentioned. And then, of course, when there is an incident and our help is needed, we are there. We provide services to address the incidents, to mitigate their effects, and so on and so forth. What changes with the regulation for CertU is the following. Well, first of all, we never had the money to do what we were doing in the way that we do now. We never had a steady flow of resources, and that changes now. So we are being given the resources, the budget that we needed. We are given positions, manpower to perform a task, albeit not right away. This is a bit of a challenge. So over the next 8 months, we are tasked with preparing a certain number of guidelines that are supposed to help union entities implement all the measures of the regulation. So this is something that we, unfortunately, at the moment have to do with the manpower that we have already. It's only as of the end of the year or beginning of next year that we'll be able to use all the resources that will be given. But of course, we do everything in collaboration with the network of union entities. So it's something that is developed by CertU first, but then it goes to our governing body, the Interinstitutional Cybersecurity Board, where more or less all union entities, one way or another, either directly or indirectly, are represented. So this is a common endeavor that we are trying to achieve together. And we need to make this right. So that's why now we are being transformed by the regulation in more of an advisory body on top of the other tasks that we had already. So we're helping everybody implement the regulation through those guidelines that I talked about, through specific advice that we can provide, through bringing together the collective technical expertise, because we are in a position in the middle of it all where we can have the security experts from several union entities that can come together and can discuss about things, and they can come up with solutions. And this is something that is very, very fundamental, because it will be the groundwork for the compliance of the union organizations and the effort to elevate the cybersecurity level of everybody for years to come. Every 2 years, there will be intervals of reviews in order to make sure that the regulation stands the test of time. And again, this is something that will happen coordinated in a way by CertU, but through the common effort of everybody. A second strategic objective that comes out of the regulation is being able to anticipate what's coming up next. So we will talk a lot about, I suppose, or you've been talking a lot about in your line of work about new technologies, about artificial intelligence. We've been talking about the geopolitical tensions that are on the rise. It has been for the past couple of years, to the very least, and by the looks of it, it's going to be the same over the next few years. So this is something that changes a little bit of the way that we perceive the world, the disruptive effect of new technologies, the way that we look at adversaries, what are they after, what are their goals, why are they targeting union entities. Of course, it's very evident that they are attractive targets because of the very nature of the work, but we want to understand a bit more. So how can we protect ourselves by trying to anticipate what are they after? And then the last strategic objective of CertU is streamlining the IT solutions of union entities. Now, that has certain limitations. Of course, we cannot do that to the full extent, because there needs to be a certain possibility of variations depending on the needs of each union entity, right? We cannot have the same IT solutions for everybody. There are different needs, there are different solutions that need to be in place for everybody. But there are certain instances where we can streamline the way that we do things. We can help union entities assess the security of specific IT solutions, assess the usefulness of those solutions, and make sure that we can all follow a similar approach to the extent possible. That will help, first of all, better use our resources, because we are not overwhelmed with a large number of IT that we need to be focusing on, and the exposed assets that we need to be monitoring. We have specific things that are kind of common for everybody, right? And the second thing is that we are limiting the attack surface of union entities. Because if we only have those things to look at, at least limiting as compared to what was there in the past. It helps us limit the surface that we need to be monitoring as well, and the surface that others may find room to attack. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about the role of CRU and how we see that the regulation is going to change the environment. I suppose we'll have more time to discuss about things later.
Okay, thanks, Alexandro. You mentioned that this regulation want to tackle the heterogeneity. So let's ask to Liliane. Tell about the Council, the European Union experience, how this regulation is going to change the cybersecurity of the Council.
So today I'm here in my personal capacity rather than representing the Council per se, because this is how we are working in the Council. But I want to tell you, to bring you back a bit in the past, how did we arrive here? Because we didn't say why do we have a regulation? Well, what was the trigger of it? So we came from 2018, 2017 with GDPR. You remember GDPR? Well, we made a copy of GDPR for the institutions, for the union entities called now. It was a very important step ahead for the privacy. And then we looked around and we said, what do we have on cyber? Because it's linked to the risks that are also mentioned about data security. And we had the Cybersecurity Act, and ENISA got an enhanced role. But that was more for the collaboration with the member states. And then we moved to NIS2 directive. And I'm pretty sure that Cristiano will say something about this. That was more for the member states, for the CSIRTs in the member states. But then the member states thought, okay, we do that effort. We have to put money together. We have to think together what you are going to do for us, you institutions, because one of the roles that the institutions are having is to provide solutions, interoperability solutions, and all these networks, information systems are connected. And all the identities are connected. And the user can move from one entity to another, can come from public administration to central administration in Brussels, and then move laterally to other agencies, and so on and so forth. So we have free movement of people, right? And skills. Therefore, when we have looked in 2018 of what is the situation, and I was at the Commission at that time, we said, what do we do on risk management? Where we are, because risk management is the core of this regulation. So it came naturally that we have to step forward on staying ahead and leveraging our common intelligence regarding risk management. And hence the regulation has in the core risk management, governance, and control framework. So this is one very important aspect. We will have something that we apply in a conscious way with senior management support, with hopefully resource support, and with not a disharmonized way of doing, not an ad hoc way of doing. Now, if we look at frameworks around, we look at various frameworks, and if we read the regulation, if we read NIS2, we see that there is a framework that emerged recently on the market, the NIS2 framework, and has a very important framework, have a very important focus on oversight. And this is the part that the regulation is also bringing, because by the creation of the IICB, Interinstitutional Cybersecurity Board, with some roles in every single union entity called local cybersecurity officer. I'm the deputy local cybersecurity officer for the council. That makes a better scene, a better oversight. We will talk all the same language. And then we talk to CERT in the same way. So the meta language is aligned, the governance is aligned, the framework is aligned. Now, what do? We review this in 4 years. This is what the regulation is saying. The framework shall be reviewed in 4 years. But then we look at maturity assessment, and I have to do that by next year, by this time. And then we look at, do we do risk assessment properly? How do we address the risk? So we will have catalogs probably of risks that we will have to share together. It's all about sharing information as well. And the last thing, and it is more about me, when I worked at the Commission, I was leading the IT cybersecurity, IT security program at that time called on risk management. And was the first time when we created a template for IT security plans. Now this is converged now into the cybersecurity plans, is in the regulation. I'm really proud of the fact that risk management that I have described at the Commission is now in the regulation. And 3 years ago when I moved at the Council, I said we have to go on that direction. And then we have methodologies about how to do risk management that are proprietary for different entities. Why? Because one size doesn't fit all in cybersecurity. As we said, there are departments with one person or none, and there are departments with 100 or more people. And therefore, we have to put a baseline of risk management compliance control framework, a baseline of leveraging our skills and capabilities. And then we realized another thing. Can we do this alone? Can we have all these resources inside? And this is impossible. Therefore, I'm also having a role of leading a contract for procurement for 17 now union entities on cybersecurity. Currently, it's the only way to do it, but it doesn't mean that we didn't learn some lessons from this. We started from 17, now we have to cover all, so the Commission will take the role on this for the new contract. And why is it important to have partners? Because at the end of the day, you can do as much as you can do with your own resources, but you still have to upskill. You still have to reskill. The contracts are having, this framework contract is having a part of training, very important. In the regulation, there is a part of training for staff, all levels, from the trainees, for internal coming just into the buildings, and to the senior management level. So on the awareness and training is a very big emphasis put on this regulation, and we want that we do it together. The Commission is having an exceptional program for leveraging the knowledge and the awareness regarding phishing and spear phishing. And CERTU led some campaigns in the past years, very successful, because like that we measure how do we improve. Improvement is a very important part of the regulation as well, because it's saying, yes, where you are today, where you want to go tomorrow, and what is your maximum target? Where do you want to be in 3 years' time or in 4 years' time? And this can be done in a collective way with a great support from our hierarchies. And we see also that the trust level is increasing. By doing that together, we are more prepared for whatever is coming, because the disruptive technologies, like you called them before, we call them emerging technologies in ENISA report regarding 2030 threats coming from emerging technologies. If we look at the first three, still supply chain is there, still ransomware is around. It didn't move from a couple of years ago when was issued to the new review. Therefore, we have to work in partnership to leverage on both sides. We are in the middle of a bridge. What is coming as a resource for us is not coming from the air, it's coming from industry. So industry has some obligations. Those that are having industry in Brussels, they have to apply an IS2. They have to reply for those that are hosted here in Belgium, they have to reply to the Center of Cybersecurity Belgium. We have obligations to report to CERTU in 24 hours, in 72 hours, in 30 days in written. So we have very strict obligations, like in the GDPR, like in the EU DPR, where in 24 hours we have to inform the European Data Protection Supervisor if it was a data breach with regard to personal data. Here we have an obligation to report to you guys in 24 hours if we see that there is an alert that might be a spillover effect, for example. Therefore, everybody is in an alert way, but in a constructive alert way, not in a panic. And because this year is a very important year everywhere in Europe and everywhere on the globe, I would say, with the elections, we pay even more attention to what and how we are organizing our processes for sharing information. And I would say that with the tools that we have today, with the skills that we put in place, what we want to achieve is that if it's happening in the little shop in a country, and it's announced quickly to the CSERT of that country, then it's coming to CERTU, and CERTU is going to announce us in about the right time, so we can act, we can look, we can search with the detection tools that we have, with the monitoring of the alerts that we have, and of course using the cyber threat intelligence that we received from CERTU, but also from different vendors with whom we are working based on the framework contracts. So without further continuation, I pass the floor to you, Lorenzo.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Iliana. So you mentioned the synergies with the private sector. So let's ask to Mo Cashman, how the private sector looks at this regulation and what can be done in terms of synergies.
Great. Well, first I want to say that the regulation could not come at a better time. The need for resilience and the role of cyber in your overall, governmental resilience or agency resilience is never more important, today. And I think using those risk management frameworks provides commonality, right, and a structured way to improve versus just buying products and putting things out there. And I think that's a great step forward for overall European resilience. I think industry plays, well, first off, I don't know if everyone knows who Trellix is. I'll just give a brief introduction. Trellix is a relatively new brand in cybersecurity as a name. However, we're the merger of two titans, McAfee and FireEye. And what we provide is some of the controls, the cybersecurity controls, endpoint, network, data, to help you manage that risk and also improve your SOC, right, through technologies and intelligence. And I think that's a key player as an industry partner. We have a multi-role here. One is that we're part of your supply chain, right? So we, as you mentioned already, Liliana, that we have to comply with some of these regulations, whether it's NIS2 or GDPR, other resilience frameworks, the cyber resilience framework coming out, or ACT. That helps us, right? Honestly, that helps us make better controls, make better software, make better secure software that you're deploying. And when you have a supply chain risk that we have today, as all the cloud services you might be using, or applications, you don't want security to be one of those risks. Security vendors especially, we have to be as resilient as you. So that helps us in development, honestly, and that's we take that very, very seriously. So that's one big piece. I think the other part is we have a view of the world, an intelligence view, and to keep your security up to date and your build adaptable capability. I think being informed by what are the actors doing, what are the adversaries doing, and that really informs your defenses, your priorities. So in risk management is all about prioritization, and what we see from the adversary landscape is what I want to convey to you and to everyone here is a sense of urgency. Adversaries they have plenty of things to exploit, whether those are vulnerabilities and the human vulnerabilities as well as software vulnerabilities. They are doing that. But what we see from our own research, our underground research, and getting into the attacker's mindset is the use of these emerging technologies like AI to accelerate their capability, accelerate development, accelerate the ability to deliver phishing in any language that you want with perfect grammar. So just think about that. In the past, you could recognize a phishing email coming from a certain part of the world because the grammar might have been a little bit messed up, right? That was actually a technique in the past. That's really not going to happen much anymore, right? The exploit code used to be maybe purview of certain groups, or certain well-funded groups, or certain adversary groups or nation states that take malware writing and code writing to heart, or really develop a capability there. That now that's inverted, right? And a lot of the tools that are available in the AI sense are actually on GitHub, for deepfake creation. Right? The malicious use of common software is actually a big vulnerability. And it actually challenges the security teams, because detecting malicious activities that are using common software is really challenging. So that really increases your need for different kinds of visibility into applications, into regular use, into identities and behavior. So your ability to detect a certain type of attack, or the attacks that are emerging, you need that sort of behavioral monitoring capability. You need enterprise-wide visibility. And another piece I wanted to pick up on was the standardization. And I've been working in government before, and as well as industry for many years, and I've seen projects where standardization is very, very important, right? And what standards do, whether that's a risk management framework or an interoperability standard, it allows the freedom that you want, which is certain agencies may want to have a hybrid security environment or these type of technologies, and the ability to collect that data at a standard level. There are actually some out there. Or the cybersecurity, there's an operational cybersecurity framework championed by several industries like AWS, for example, that the open cybersecurity framework, that's what it is. It allows the normalization of data across different technologies. So when industry adopts that and government is driving that through regulation, that helps it gives you the freedom to not choose a rigid architecture. And rigidity is an enemy of resilience. So I like your approach that you mentioned before, both Alexandria and Liliana, or Alex and Liliana, that you want to be able to have some choice. You want to have standards, but you want to have a choice. And that's really, really critical. Right? So dictating one thing or the other doesn't necessarily work. You want to have standards of interoperability, and that again helps industry, and that helps you to be more resilient. And I think integration, not just at data level, but between different products, especially as you adopt cloud services, that becomes absolutely essential to have an easy way to onboard data, an easy way to integrate with those services, because they become new channels of exploitation. Collaboration tools that you use today, Slack, GitHub, Teams, everyone uses that. Those are potential cross-border points of entry into your network. So it's often not monitored. Right? So that's a key area where integration with native technologies becomes important. So the integration standards really are important for both industry and the regulation. And I guess finally, just on the skills piece, I just wanted to make it more of a personal comment here. I started my career in a CERT, one of the very first CERTs that were out there, and I'm very, very pleased to see the diversity in the audience here today. I'm sure Liliana is as well. We had a discussion about that. But I remember in hiring for those CERTs, we drew from a certain pool of talent, right, which was from the defense side of things. And defense, armies, global defense has a very diverse hiring and diverse population. So that's a good hiring source for improving your diversity. I wanted to say that. And also just diversity of skills. A lot of times when hiring in CERT or SOC operations, you look for the technical person. And I can give you a personal example where my best investigator had a degree in theology and philosophy, not anything technical. So think about diversity of skills and when you're hiring. Thank you.
Thanks, Mo. And thanks especially for the last remarks, on the importance role of having, diverse type of skill, even philosophy, psychology. We can talk a lot about this, the importance in cybersecurity. But this giving me the opportunity to involve Sania on this issue of skills, because ISAC has a strong core of the activity on skills. So how do you look on this issue from the lens of this new regulation?
Thank you. First of all, I'm very honored to represent ISACA here on this event about cybersecurity and for those who are not familiar with ISACA, we are, let's say, more than 50-year-old organization, global, not-profit organization, with, let's say, simple vision to pursue digital trust by creating our digital world safe, secure, and accessible to everyone. Our mission and what we are doing all these years, let's say, giving knowledge to individuals through the trainings, through the certificates, through the community. We have very large community of professionals in this area. And actually, these people, these individuals, with our support, they improve their careers, they improve and positively, let's say, transform their organization by knowledge that they put in their process. So our certification, our CISA, maybe some of you are hear about them. I'm sorry, there is CISA for information system audit, CISM, actually information security manager, C-risk. It is for risk management managers who let's say, implementing risk management in their organization and so on. Additional, with our, let's say, frameworks that we create and that we constantly improve, like COBIT, like CMMI, and new one, Digital Trust Ecosystem Framework. We help to enterprises, to organizations to improve their process, to improve and to put on highest level from cybersecurity way to put on highest level their defense capacity. So that is ISACA. And when we spoke about, let's go back about cyber attacks. You know, from the pandemic, COVID pandemic period till today, cyber attacks exponential increase. So today is not question, will my organization be attacked or will I personally be attacked? Today is question, when somebody attack me, will be I capable to defend from this attack? So that's why we as ISACA very welcome for this regulation for European Union bodies, institution and agency. And when we spoke about risk management today, and that is really important for all of you, for all of your organization to let's say have one very good risk management framework. That framework don't somebody said, okay, we have some risk types and so on and so on, but you really need to assess which risk your organization are faced, and to put all cyber risk in your risk, let's say, risk universe, in your risk management framework. So then now we can come back to education and to people, to workforce in cybersecurity. And one of the greatest risk for all of us is actually shortage in cybersecurity workforce. Some ENISA do some research, and there is some data that Europe European Union needs about between actually 260,000 and 500,000 people in cybersecurity. So workforce shortage in cybersecurity is the biggest risk because for, let's say, regulation implementation, because you will not have enough skills people to implement risk management, to implement any activity to defense your organization in cybersecurity way. So what we as ISACA recommending, we are recommending, and that is what all of you need to think about, to bring focus to develop cybersecurity professional, to train and develop them, to let's say to be able and to be capable to implement and to improve your cybersecurity resilience of your company. What European Union done and did these days, last year, I think it is on second half of last year, European Commission create academy, cyber skills academy. I think that, not I think, but I know that behind of this initiative and behind of this academy is something, they actually want to put together all initiative who trained and who work on improving and to building workforce in cybersecurity. So that is something, and ISACA is, let's say, stakeholders of this academy. Our certificates, we give some initiative for this academy. What is very important too, to go back to implementation and to risk management, before we start to implement this regulation, we need to assess our organization and maturity of our organization. Actually, you know, all of your organization are different. You have different size, different IT systems, and so on and so on. So you need to go deeply and to assess all your system properly. And at the end of story, we mentioned methodology and everything. That is for European Union bodies. This methodology needs to be clear for this organization. So,
thank you, Sania. Now, Christian, we have heard that, you know, to some extent this regulation fill a gap, you know, because these union entities were not under, you know, the NIS2 and so on. So can you put in context, you know, this regulation with the more general acquis of the you know, European legal cybersecurity framework? Well, we had other event. You are connected remotely. Yeah.
Better? Yeah. What I just said wasn't important, so it's fine.
Yeah, so thank you. Very important discussion, and I lead a small team which deals with, if you like, more operational aspects of cybersecurity in the Commission, working closely with our policy colleagues and particularly CERTIU, who I would pay tribute to as being an excellent centre of excellence for technical knowledge of cybersecurity and generally understanding the situation. And it's a pleasure to work with them. Within the Commission, we've traditionally, focused on policy and legislation, but there was a game changer 2 years ago with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which had there was a significant cybersecurity element to that. Russia has been carrying out malicious activities against Ukraine for years and years, and indeed there was a serious cyber incident which coincided with the invasion. And so the Commission decided to create a team devoted to following the situation and working with member states to improve our preparedness for a potential cyber crisis. So that's what we do. My involvement in cyber goes back quite a long time in the sense that I drafted the first internal security strategy for the EU back in 2010 when I was my first time in the Commission in DG Home, and we actually had a chat. One of the 5 objectives, strategic objectives, was cybersecurity, which was still a very new area then. And I remember the one concrete recommendation there was that every member state should have its own cert, and that's like 2010. So we've moved on. We've moved on quite a way since then. I was also involved I was in my second time in the Commission, 2020, preparing the cybersecurity strategy, and that envisaged a number of legal policy project initiatives, and it included, what became NIS2 directive, but also the regulation for cybersecurity in EU entities, which we're talking about now. So it very much mirrors and applies as appropriate the principles and the rules of NIS to ourselves as EU institutions and bodies. I think it's important to just set the context, which is, yesterday there was the Council activated the crisis mechanism that they call the IPCR for foreign interference in the EU's democracy, specifically the EU elections European Parliament elections in June. And unfortunately, malicious cyber activity is a form of interference with our democracy, and we are in a very tense geopolitical environment, which means that Europe, whether it's member states or EU institutions, can be expected to be a target for malicious cyber activity, which is why it's so important that we filled this gap, as Lorenzo put it, in the EU cybersecurity framework. On the regulation itself, I think it's been covered in quite substantially, but it's really the same principle as NIS2. So we basically put accountability for cybersecurity management, governance and control and risk management at the highest level of the organization. In NIS, when we talk about NIS2, we talk about C-suite accountability for cyber, and that's the case with this regulation, and that's why we have the legislator has given a much fuller range of competencies and tasks to CERTIU. Where it touches what we do in our team is that we work on behalf of the Commission very closely with member states in the EU Cyclone Network, which is the network of national cybersecurity agencies, which was set up informally in 2020, but was formally established by the NIS2 directive last year. And so the purpose of that network is to support coordination in the case of a large-scale incident, but also to coordinate and to cooperate with EU entities. So that was already there in NIS2 as the role of Cyclone. And what we have in the EU entities regulation for cybersecurity is obviously setting up the IICB, which Alex mentioned. But there's a bridge in there as well to Cyclone, where it says that the IICB should have a point of contact for interacting with Cyclone as necessary, and that point of contact is the Commission. And the Commission obviously is the biggest institution with its own highly skilled cert and colleagues in Digit who we work very closely with. I wanted just to give some general context to this regulation in terms of policy. So as well as the NIS directive, which is the deadline for transposition is October this year. There's also guidelines which are being prepared on implementation by my colleagues in DG Connect. But as well as that, we have other important rules which have been adopted in the last few years, in the last couple of years. So we have the Cyber Resilience Act, which is the first ever rule book in the world which governs standards for Internet of Things objects, rules on that need to be observed before they're placed on the market. This is because most serious incidents are supply chain incidents, and with so many with billions of connected things, we've basically created this enormous attack surface available to malicious actors to exploit. And so with the Cyber Resilience Act, we're trying to shore up the defenses. Then even more recently, that was adopted last year, and then even more recently, the Cyber Solidarity Act was agreed earlier this year, and this is a regulation which first of all creates a framework for security operations centres to cooperate with each other across Europe. They're called cyber hubs, and so these are in a way the first line of defence. They will be detecting signals of anomalous activity on their networks, which may well indicate that there is a serious attack imminent. And so it provides a framework for those hubs to develop and to share information with each other, and where there is a significant incident, to share it with Cyclone and with the Commission and the CSIT network. It also creates something called a cyber reserve. Well, it creates a framework for preparedness actions based on the latest risk assessments. We do lots of risk assessments now in our team, EU level. And so preparedness actions, where are the parts of our critical infrastructure which require attention and investment through the new European Cyber Competence Centre in Bucharest. And the Cyber Reserve, which is about responding to incidents, so a pool of trusted vendors that member states can call on in the event of an incident, again, for the first time at European level. So that will be formally adopted this year and implemented, I think, by 2027. Skills have been mentioned, which is extremely important. There is a severe skills shortage in cybersecurity. And so the Commission, with its Skills Academy initiative, is trying to address that. Lastly, I would mention we have cyber threats. The most serious cyber threats are the ones which are sophisticated, and those tend to be the result of irresponsible state behavior in cyberspace, which is why cyber diplomacy is so crucial. We have a cyber diplomacy toolbox for responding to, for calling out irresponsible behavior by threats coming from states. And we have a whole series of engagement with international bodies, so in particular the UN, in order to support the principle of rules-based free and open internet, which is perhaps more under threat than ever before with the rise of authoritarianism. So that's...
Thank you, Christian. So, I mean, now we have, I think the time it's left, we should start, giving more room to the discussion with the audience, also with the people that are remotely connected. So maybe let's collect some questions over there. Please introduce yourself and...
Hi, yeah, works. Christian from the European Cybersecurity Organization. So you now have the legal framework, the resources, the setup, the people as well very soon. What do you think, what do you need? What would you like to see to be effective other than, just the time to actually do it? What would be the main ask you have right now?
I suppose this for Alexandros, yeah. Okay, let's start.
I've obviously seen that report. There's not really much I can say about it because it's something that's under investigation. But I'll repeat, the council has recognised that there is that there are foreign threats to our democracy, and the IPCR process is really the highest level of political coordination. It was last triggered by the Hamas attack on Israel and the Middle East situation. And that means that there will be, coordination across member states and with the EU institutions to pull together what we're seeing and how we're responding to it.
Okay, I'm going to take that as well. Again, I cannot say anything about it because directly speaking, it's not something that affects the cyber element per se anyway. And even so, the members of the European Parliament themselves are under the remit of the European Parliament. It wouldn't be something covered by CERT-EU. But the European Parliament has a respective cybersecurity team. It's a specific Directorate General. It's called ITEC, if I'm not mistaken. And we are, of course, in close collaboration with them. And being one of the main European Union entities, as we call them, of course, they are one of those who have a big team working on cybersecurity. However, that particular case, I think, pertains to regular security and regular intelligence rather than cybersecurity and cyber threat intelligence, right? There may be aspects of it on both ends, but primarily I would think of it as a regular security incident. Now, to your question. What more do we need? We are quite happy, actually, at the moment. We've been given a lot of freedom by the regulation. We've been given a lot of ammunition to work on things. We need to make this right. We need to make things right. And in order to do that, we got to think of the little guy, right? The small union entities. That's what we need to have in mind. we need to make it work for everybody, and we need to be ready to support union entities in the best way possible. So what I would like to have more is, our ambition is to become fully trusted by union entities, in the sense that our services are fully integrated into the planning of a union entity. Like, we are accepted as the service that will help them bring this home, you know? And it's a big task because, as I said, cybersecurity was not even in the radar of higher management in several union entities. So now we are getting in there in a way that we are becoming a central cog for the cybersecurity of all union entities. And that's what we are after. I understand that it can be a lot for some of them, and it can be very overwhelming. There are a lot of things that you need to do, but we want to be there every step of the way and guide them every step of the way. So I think what I'm looking for in the future is this acceptance of our role in the union entities, which I cannot say that it has not been accepted, because we have a direct contact with the security colleagues in every union entity, but at least the acceptance of the importance of cybersecurity by higher management. So when we suggest something that needs to happen, then it can be enforced in a way that higher management cannot avoid doing it, so that we can have a basic level for everybody.
Can I add? Actually, you should start from risk management and from assessing your risk and from your high risk. That is something where is your high risk?
We all need something. It's about people. At the end, you can have as many tools as you can gather with the money that you have in your budget, but the retention of people is really a side effect. So we have seen, together with pandemic, that there was quite an increase on the market, on products, on people expectations, and on privileges. While I think the IPCR is called crisis, one of the C there is called crisis, right? We are in crisis everywhere in Europe. We don't have that, we don't have that. Where do we put priorities, like we said about priorities? So our priority is to have the right amount of people, Europeans, because we cannot have in the institutions other nationalities than Europeans, member states, Europeans, and then to have a humble approach to that. We have seen recently that just graduated people are thinking that they deserve senior paycheck. Well, in the institutions, we cannot afford that. We work based on some very strict rules. Those that are statutory staff have to pass some competitions. It's a very complicated and cumbersome exercise. We are just now recruiting people based on the competitions, and I can tell you one thing, we will not have enough, because the number of needs, a crisis coming, a major crisis coming, we do not have enough statutory staff, people inside. Therefore, if we count on companies and we have a call, we need now 10 people to come and do analysis for us, those people cannot come with a paycheck 10 times more, because we will not have the 10 times more. So we have to bring the European spirit back in Europe, and this is what we need from everybody, not just from us. We can write, I don't know how many pieces of regulation, but if the spirit is not there, we cannot do outsourcing elsewhere, because, like you said, there's a big temptation that everybody can speak a certain language just using ChatGPT. But the cybersecurity language in Europe shall be for Europe. And I'm very pro-European in this thing, I know. But this is how we work.
Okay, thanks.
Just one. I know nothing about the incident that you referred to, but just more broadly, the insider risk management is a different beast, than managing the external risk, particularly when it comes to the cyber component. Because there's accidental loss of information today, especially as Liliana just highlighted privileges, right? And all of our users have a lot of privileges in terms of cyber, and they want to get the job done. But however, in doing that job, they might accidentally, lose data. That happens. That's not necessarily malicious, but there might be those with malicious intent, and there are ways to detect it. For external threats, MITRE is an excellent framework to detect external threats, but for insider threats, what is the framework for monitoring? This not well established. There are a few, but they're not well established. So it's an important aspect of your risk management profile, though.
And maybe just to add about staff and people, you need to create cyber security professional from people in your organization, from executive position to lower level position. All of them need to be cybersecurity aware and cybersecurity educated. It is not just one guy or some group of people who know cybersecurity and who do something to defend your organization from cybersecurity. Every person needs to be educated.
Sure.
Perhaps one important thing that we forgot to mention from the very beginning. There is information and information. The regulation is only about unclassified network and information systems. So, because I work for the house that created the council security rules, that is covered by the council security rules, the classified information, classified system. This is only for unclassified. But we know very well that on the supply chain, things might happen. People working in different companies, different interests, software that is made on open source, cables, silicium, how we call it, silicon, everything can be a threat at the end of the day. So today we have a borderline between these regulations, decisions, regulatory framework, but there will be a moment when we might have to look a bit broader than that. What we have to do is stabilize the current situation, be sure that we know which are our digital assets, who's taking care of them, who has a role in deciding who has access or privilege or not. And once we know all this, and when we can share proper information on very secure channels, then we can think a bit further than that.
Okay, thanks. Do we have any question? Okay. Maybe a question from the chat.
Thank you. Jean Gotts from the European Chemical Association, Chemical Industry Association. Very interesting. We organized in December already a webinar for DG Environment and our members on process safety and cybersecurity. We now are looking also to the NIS2 directive you spoke about. It's clear that risk-based approach is the good one, and that's the one we also asked to our members. There is a very big difference between the big members and the small members. Big members, they have their own department. They are also having more than 1,000 cyber attacks every day. So they have to protect themselves already. And then I come back to what you also said about the member states and the people we need. If we are speaking about 500,000 people we don't have in Europe, we need them now. We can't have them. I know there are some groups between the different countries to help each other, but how do you see to help the national authorities in a short time to be able to first to understand and transpose the NIS2 directive in an acceptable text is the same almost over whole Europe, and how to help them to verify and to help the industry to improve and to put everything in place?
just want to repeat, train the existing staff. First of all, train the existing staff, then because maybe some of your existing staff could be very good professional. You have cyber skills academy. Go through give them education through cyber skills academy and create, let's say, your cybersecurity staff from the staff that you have. That is maybe first step. Then try to find maybe some university, to collaborate with university, to have some have some contract or some agreement with university about internship abilities for that students and so on. And that is maybe some way how you could find good staff to implement this regulation. The other thing is methodology that you need to have. As I said, ISACA has a few frameworks that maybe could help you in implementation.
Yep, there are two ways. Start from the very early age, because in cybersecurity, basically, there's no age. You can have very great skills before graduating or even going to school. Why? Because nowadays, kids are using digital devices like we were playing with blocks of wooden pieces back in my youth, or just sandboxes even before that. So there is this catching up with the new generation, introducing in schools, in the curricula, the cybersecurity as a mandatory thing, and not necessarily coding, and not necessarily analyzing, but searching for patterns. Kids are exceptional for searching for patterns, and they are discovering magnificent things. The second thing is the existing workforce. The existing workforce that might not be fully occupied and that can be reskilled. We can add different parameters, and there is also no blockage in conversion, professional reconversion. I used to work for DG Employment at the Commission, and we did this reconversion, vocational training, which is very much needed in Europe. It was very good back in the 70s, 80s. Maybe we shall bring it back. Vocational training for those that they might not want to have a super duper career with a university degree, but they want to have vocational training. Because we need people that can test, people that can take the calls. The frontliners in cyber are very important. Those that are doing the triage, the first part, don't have to have necessarily the all skills like the most senior cybersecurity analyst or incident responder. The triage is based again on patterns. Then the third is, and I come back with the subject that I love the most. We looked around the graduated people in the last couple of years. There is in Europe quite a population of females that from the moment they graduate to the moment you want to search them in the industry, they disappear. We have to bring them back because nobody shall be scared by cybersecurity. What we do with this regulatory framework now is to bring cybersecurity where it shall be, in the DNA of each of us, because each of us is having a phone, each of us is touching on a screen, or is putting his face on a very nice social media. And now with retina recognition and with all these biometrics recognition, then each of us is a potential non-identifiable person, who knows? Meaning we can be impersonated. I'm speaking now, my voice can be recorded and reused to gain some money from my family. That will be blackmail with my own voice. We know that, right? So there is a thing that is missing. A category of age, doesn't matter, that is disappearing from the market, and we want to know what happened. And then we do, in the European institutions, we have a great program called Back to School. We go to universities, to the schools where we have been before studying, and we also preach on the fact that we need those people that are in the member states maybe to bring their knowledge to us in the union entities and then can go back. So it's a transfer of knowledge that we have to encourage. And as I said, I work for DG Employment, and I know one thing, that when we look at across the nationalities, the geographic balance in our union entities, in cybersecurity, we lack the Nordic countries and a bit of South. So we would like, for example, to have more geographical balance. Why? Because there is knowledge coming. The eastern flank is very much knowledgeable in cybersecurity today, while the Nordic flank, which used to be the top, is not that much interested. Why? Because the salaries that they have today are more attractive in their own countries. So they don't want to come and live in Brussels. It's not the weather, it's the income. And then this is what we would like to bring together. Harmonization of the skills, of the knowledge, but also not having a fear of jumping into the field. The boat is large enough to bring more.
Okay, thanks. I think if the do you have a okay, sure.
Because I love the question, but I think
I have a, sorry,
you have to go.
I might be able to come back, but I really have to.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You have to go. Okay. We're going to close. Yeah. I mean,
Thank you very much for joining us.
I'll make it very fast.
yeah.
No, just I think there's all the things that have been said about the skill development are very important. Where can we think a little bit differently? I do believe that industry has a big role, especially in the products that you're using, the analysts, the people, the employees are using. The same AI that has been used to create those magnificent phishing emails can also translate incident data and complex attack code into something very, very easy to understand. We have it. It's out there on the market now. It's in lots of different technologies, and I think that's an important piece for retention and for upskilling, right, of people. And the last point I want to make was, from an architectural point of view, as particularly as it comes to SOC, you can distribute that. And I think there's a buying change that has to happen to where you're distributing the capability to detect threats earlier and in different parts of the network, so that these 500,000 people that you need in the SOC, maybe they're already out there in the OT side or in the workplace or in your data protection environment. So they have to be able to detect threats easier. And the way that the technology is bought today is very singular control driven, but maybe from a regulatory standpoint, we can think about a prevention, detection, response solution to every single purchase or every single technology architecture that's out there. I do believe distributing will help with the problem.
Okay, I think that we have one question from the chat, and then
Yes, exactly. Sorin Topor from ICI Bucharest asks, what do you think about the proposal of a new discipline to address the law applicable to cyber conflicts?
who wants to answer to this question? Maybe.
We need the NATO Center of Excellence.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, the question is, what do you think about the proposal of a new discipline to address the law applicable to cyber conflicts? Tough question.
I think there is already a group discussing how to address the cyber conflicts, more linked to hybrid conflicts. And that is more what the European Defense Fund is going to sponsor in future. We have a quite new Directorate General at the Commission called DEFIS, which is about defense. We have quite an interesting collaboration with the European Defense Agency, where they are also thinking of that. But there is a big interest from the European External Service Action, where conflicts, because let's not forget, we don't speak only about member states. We have 140, when I left the diplomatic community of external service, we were 143 delegations of the European Union, and we have personnel there, and we have equipment there, and we have information systems there. And sometimes we have to bring them quickly back because of the conflict. So for that thing, it's more the defense part. We are really cyber-oriented for the union entities. But as I said, the perspective of expanding our perimeter might be quite sooner rather than later.
And maybe a little bit from my side, as sir, you were not involved in military aspects of cybersecurity, only to the extent, of course, that something may be dual use, or we can extract knowledge or best practices from the military domain that could be used in our line of work. But everything that has to do with military is out of our scope. However, the same used to be about diplomacy, and we are not directly involved in diplomacy ourselves. This is something that is under the remit of the European External Action Service, the Ministries of Foreign Affairs from the member states. But it's been coordinated to some extent here in Brussels through the works of the Council and the European External Action Service. There is this divide in cybersecurity of the different levels, the technical, the operational, the strategic or political, if you will. We belong to the technical level, and what we can provide is information that can be used by higher levels so that they can decide on the basis of the information that we give them. This is the extent to which we would be involved in diplomatic matters, let's say. Of course, we are boots on the ground. We have an understanding of what's going on, even though it's not in our line of work to attribute politically a certain action to a specific threat actor or a state-sponsored threat actor, whatever it may be. Of course, we have an understanding of what's going on, and we try to convey that understanding at least on the technical information, on the basis of the technical information that we have. Explain, of course, the limitations of how someone can use that kind of technical information in order to proceed with any diplomatic response or whatever that may be.
Okay, so I think that we can close our discussion here today. Thank you very much to the speakers, to the audience, to the people that participate, to the CEPS event people. And I think we got a very nice overview on the law, and so now it's only a matter of walk the talk, basically, okay? And then we can start going to have our lunch. Okay, thank you very much.